Awesome. So let's go and see. Welcome, anyone. Welcome to office hours. I'm here to answer any questions. Bring them on. But if you, shoot. My next video about, we're actually doing our first quiz here right now in algebra, or I'm sorry, not algebra, but calculus and pre-calculus. So we're going to get into pre-calculus. We're doing compositions and inverses of functions. And then for calculus, we're going to start chapter 2, derivatives. We'll be taking our limits test next week, and then we'll get into derivatives. So what class are you taking? Lucifer Cave. Huh. Odd. Okay. So let's see, it's actually 2:31, so this is exactly what I was looking in for. Welcome, Diego. So I was just kind of looking into, basically just want to answer some questions, open it up to you guys to, ask me some questions and kind of see if I can help you out from the classes. Don't know how long I'll be on, probably for half an hour or so, and we can just kind of discuss from there. So I'll try to answer questions as best I can. And so Diego says, when you have the equation 1 over x, what does the 1 represent? Well, the 1 is just really kind of part of the function, and I'm going to be kind of using my whiteboard instead of, I was looking into doing a tablet and kind of doing some online instruction or showing my tablet up on here, but I think for right now I'm just going to kind of use the board. Really, when you look at it, we look at different types of functions where exactly the 1 could kind of represent. And if you just look into a regular equation, y equals x, you could think about that as like y equals 1 times x. And so basically 1 is just going to be this constant that's being multiplied by your x. Now, depending on, you're looking into your table of values, x, y, when we choose different table of values, either way, you're going to plug them in, and then we're going to be finding y. So in reality, there's really no difference when you have 1 divided by x. 1 is just this constant. And again, it's not always going to be 1, but that's representing by our parent function. So if you think of, here's just the identity function, which is creating a graph like that. This function, if you were to use a table of values again, is just going to create the hyperbola function, which is something that we definitely discuss further in Algebra 2, Pre-Calculus, and Calculus. I'm not sure if I answered your question, but I'll go back and see kind of what you're doing. Hyman Roman Yule, how are you doing today? So guys, I'm here for any kind of questions you guys have, anything I can do to help you out. Like I said, I'm just chilling, just taught a nice day of school, and I figured, well, it's Friday. And even though I'd like to make kind of more live streams during the class, obviously I know that some of you are in class or not available. So I just kind of figured it'd be a nice little way to, sit down, do a video that's a little bit different, and see if I can help you guys out. So if you guys got any questions, just type them in. If you have some problems, I'll try to do my best, but I will warn you, if you're going to want to try to stump me, I guarantee you're probably going to stump me. I'm not a math genius by any amount, so, or by any means. So just be careful on what you're asking from me. But I will try to do my best. I am currently teaching pre-calculus and calculus this year, but I've taught everything from Algebra 1, geometry, as well as Algebra 2. Why are we using the identity? Okay, hi Brian. Why are we using the identity? Well, I mean, he was speaking about the identity function, y equals 1 equals x. Are you asking about what is the identity as far as in the function, Romeo? Respond to that a little bit. I'm going to go and get to the equation as far as 3/4 x. So if we're looking, if we know that y equals 1 over x, so we know y equals x is basically, if we're going to create a table, x, y, let's just do -1, 0, 1, and 2. We know by plugging that in, we're going to get -1, 0, 1, and 2. So that's why we call it the identity function, because whatever the value of x is, that's exactly what y is. So they have that identity, shared identity. So over 1, up 1, over 2, up 2. And you can see that all these points create this nice little diagonal line as we go ahead and graph them. OK? Now, let's go ahead and take a look and see, well, what happens if we change this to 3/4 x? Now, there's a couple things that are important here. Now, we could look at this as far as, Algebra 1, we might look at a graph. And that's fine. We can plug in. But usually, most people do not like dealing with fractions. So one of the other things that we can do is look into this as far as talking about the slope. And if you remember, dealing with the slope is going to be like the rise over the run. And you could think of the y-intercept as going to hit 0. So in the next equation, basically, what we're going to do is the exact same thing. We're going to go up 3 and then over 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. So what's happening here is you're kind of seeing this graph. By multiplying by the 3/4, kind of shut off. Oh, you know what? It's plugged in, so I'm not going to plug that in. There we go. Hopefully that should be better. It was plugged into the AC plug, so I think that sometimes has a shutoff. So what you can see, what's happening in this graph is the slope's getting less and less. And what happens is, as this constant, so here that constant is 1, right? And it creates that perfect diagonal. Well, as this constant gets smaller and smaller, you can see the slope is decreasing, decreasing, decrease, until obviously it gets closer to 0, where obviously if it can't be equal to 0. So what's actually happening is that 3/4 is vertically compressing the graph. The slope is getting smaller and smaller. And you can kind of think about if something was pushing down on this function, it would be flattening it, right? If you just kind of look at it like that, you're kind of flattening it. So for instance, if I was going to graph y equals 1 over 4 x, well, what's going to happen? That's up 1 over 4. The graph is getting flatter and flatter. So basically what we talk about, and this is the identity function, but this transfers towards any types of functions in our parent functions that we discuss. Whenever you have your constant that's in front of your function, which we represent usually as a variable a, when a is between 0 and 1, that's going to vertically compress the graph. But when a is going to be larger than 1, that's going to be vertically stretching it. So that's kind of my best that I got there for you. No, Romeo, I don't know. Did I answer your question? Or I'm sorry about that, man. I was just going over the identity, so I'm not sure if that was answering the question. Oh, Jesus, Elizabeth. So you're looking into, ooh, geez. All right, so what is the problem, Elizabeth? Are you looking into simplifying, I'm assuming, and multiplying? Because, hey, Rose, I'd love to know what you think of the most challenging area of math for students. Well, and Elizabeth, I'm not forgetting about you. I'll come back to you in just a second. Well, I can tell you, Rose, I really kind of struggled, and actually not really, kind of a branch of mathematics. I really struggled with physics and statistics when I was taking them in college. I don't know what it was. I really, didn't really find my groove in math until I was in college. And my favorite was actually graph theory. And that's what I kind of went into and really kind of enjoyed that. But, just kind of different branches. Obviously getting into calculus and getting into more stuff like that. I will say my linear algebra teacher, my second linear algebra 2 teacher, that kind of got into some pretty crazy stuff. But I don't really recall. I think it's really recall as far as my most difficult area of math to kind of per se. But I can say I didn't really like statistics. I didn't care for it. And physics, I didn't really care for it. So they were challenging for me because I didn't really enjoy doing the math that was involved with that. Multiply the following irrational expressions. OK, so this is probably where the tablet would be helpful for me for doing the next little upstream, because basically you got a lot of things that we need to kind of write down on this, Elizabeth. So I'll try to do my best and get to it, as long as you guys aren't killing me. All right. So let's see what I can do for you, Elizabeth. So basically, we have 3b squared plus 10b minus 8 minus 10b plus 8. Divided by b squared plus 2b minus 8. Right? I believe so. B squared plus 2b minus 8. And then we have times b squared minus 4. Oh, geez. And then that's over 3b squared. 3b squared plus 4b minus b. All right, so please make sure I wrote that up there correctly, because otherwise I'm going to not have a very fun time getting to plus 10b. So it's a plus 10b. You're right, plus 10b. OK, so I mean, since this is dealing with so much factoring, I don't really want to go into exactly how to factor. Basically, I can say whenever you're doing a problem like this, the main important thing is we need to simplify it. Because if you're not simplifying it, applying distributive property here is just going to be messy, and it's going to be way too much work. So what we'll really want to make sure we do is simplify each expression. Now, first of all, I see b squared minus 4, and I'm fairly used to that by recognizing that can be rewritten as b minus 2 times b plus 2. All right, that's the difference of two squares. Here is another trinomial where my a is 1. So those are relatively factored. I'm looking for what two numbers multiply to give me negative 8, add to give me a positive 2. So I'll do a b, let's see, plus 4, and then b minus 2. So I'm just going to kind of erase those now. And then here, I have a coefficient of 3. Now, it's not as bad as some of them, because I know that if I'm going to be multiplying to get my 3b, I could have 3b and b over here. And then I need to multiply two terms that are going to multiply to give me 8. But they're going to add to give me 10. But I just got to remember I got to be multiplying this 3 here. So please bear with me. I did not plan on thinking about this. So I got to think of what multiplies to give me 8. So I could do 8 and 1, and I could do 4 and 2. OK, so all right. So if I did 3 times 2, and then so 3 times 2 would give me 6, and then 4 times b would give me 4b. 6b plus 4b is 10b, which is my middle term. Here I'm going to do the exact same thing. We're going to set up as a 3b times b. And was that minus 6? Is that your problem? 3bc minus 4b. Oh, minus 4. I forgot to write that wrong. OK, so now I'm looking into what two numbers multiply to give me negative 4. So again, forget about the negatives for a second. That could be 4 and 1 and 2 and 2, where one of them is going to be negative. But they're going to have to add to give me a positive 4. So I'm thinking 2 would give me 6, and then 2 would be 4. So therefore, if I did plus 2 and then minus 2, that would work out. OK, so now what I've basically done is I've simplified each one of these expressions. And that's important because now I can rewrite this as 3b plus 4 times b plus 2 all over b plus 4 times b minus 2 times b minus 2 times b plus 2, and then over 3b minus 2 times b plus 2. Now what's important about this is I haven't even multiplied, right? I've just simplified this. But what's helpful is now I can apply the division property. And since there's multiplication across everything, I can divide across terms here. And so whatever's in the numerator and the denominator is going to go ahead and divide to 1. So that's going to be, looks like everything else I have. I'm sorry, my penmanship is not the greatest. Now, we can multiply these out, or we could just leave what's left, which I'm going to have these two terms and these two terms. So I'll just leave as 3b plus 4 times b plus 2 all over b plus 4 times 3b minus 2. And that is going to be your simplified rational expression. Not talking about the values where it's not defined, but just looking at simplifying your fraction. That's going to be basically what you're going to be wanting to look at, Elizabeth. So hopefully that helps. All right. Now it looks like we got some things. Probability hates me. Probability hates me too. You're very welcome, Elizabeth. So 3 times 1x is the same as 3x. Yes, Diego, that is correct. So basically, that is just going to be stretching your graph as a factor of 3. Last number is 4, not b. Yes. Thank you. OK. Alice, how can you please help me solve this equation? Square root of 4 plus x plus 0.05 times 1 over the square root of x equals. So please note that the square root covers all of 4 plus x. So just trying to think here. You're going to need to get rid of your radicals because you have the negative 1/2 of x is going to be rewritten as your square root. And so you're going to need to get rid of the squares. I tell you, Alice, I could probably work on it, but as far as a live stream, it's probably not going to be the best just because that's not something that I have covered in a while. So it's probably going to take me a couple tries, to be honest with you. So unfortunately, I'd probably rather not try to go and attempt it just on this live stream, since I'm only going to be here for another probably like 13 more minutes. You know, what I can definitely tell you is just remember that that's 4 over x. I'm sorry, the 4 plus x. Just remember when that's being raised to the negative 1/2 power, that we can rewrite that as 1 over the square root of 4 plus x. So just kind of recall that, because it seems like they're trying to trick you a little bit with that 4 over x, because they use the square roots first and then they don't use the square root. So I would just recommend that. But then either way, to go ahead and solve for x, you're going to have to, obviously get them outside of those radicals, and then obviously combine your x's for that. So that's at least where I'd say your starting point, or things you'd want to kind of look for. What should I expect for? Oh, don't. Thank you. All right, it's only Abby. What should I expect for Algebra 2? Will it be too hard? Well, Abby, I'm actually about to make a video, and this is something I talked to all of my students about, was kind of how to be prepared for math class. And it really doesn't matter what math class you're in, if it's Algebra 1, Algebra 2, Geometry, Pre-Calculus, Calculus, or even anything in college-based calculus or college-based courses. But there's basically a couple things that you need to do. And actually, I just forgot what it is. Well, I can tell you one thing is everybody's going to come with different holes of knowledge. So you'll want to definitely make sure that when you enter in your course, okay, I'm remembering too, is if you start having trouble in your class, actually I remembered all of them. All right, I got you. Here's the 3 tips. They'll probably come in a video that you guys will see. But the 3 tips is, 1, if you start having trouble, make sure you talk to your teacher. Most teachers are here to help you guys out. We want to teach. We want you guys to learn. And so if you're having trouble, ask your teacher, what can you do? Every teacher is going to have a little bit different process on how they're going to help students. I know some teachers sometimes get a bad rap as far as not wanting to help students. But just make sure you talk to your teacher. Ask your teacher. This is something that I did many times, especially when I started struggling in class. Ask your teacher, how can you do better in the class? What would they advise for their class that's going to help them out? The second point is find some friends. Obviously YouTube is great. You guys can watch as many videos and however many videos you want to, but find some friends in class that not only can you just not text just to get the homework, but people that you can actually work through with to work through certain problems that's going on in your class that you are that you're doing. So I would definitely recommend find some people that you can study for tests together with, that you can do your homework with, and that you can answer questions, because everybody's going to understand the instruction a little bit differently. So it's really nice to have some people to kind of work with. And then third, but not least, if you are starting to struggle, practice, practice, practice. I really started this year giving a little bit less of homework. But what I've told my students is, just because I'm giving less work doesn't mean you don't need to be able to practice. So I usually give them a very large study guide that provides them with a lot of practice. But as far as the numbers in the book, I'm not giving them a huge number of problems. But I told them, I was that kid that had to do a lot of practice. I would get problems in the back of the book, and I would just do the problems over and over. So make sure you're definitely practicing problems. Do the examples in the book where you have the answers, and just practice, practice, practice. And even if everything's coming, a little bit slowly for you, that's perfectly fine. But if you keep on practicing, you're going to build up your skills. So I wish you all the best, Abby, and just let you know I've taught Algebra 2 for a while, so let me know the same. Yeah, I mean, basically Algebra 2 is Algebra 1 retaught in all of chapter, the first semester of Algebra 2 is basically all Algebra 1 condensed. And then usually in the second chapter, you get into some different topics in Algebra 2. So as long as you feel good with Algebra 1, you're going to revisit all of those topics again, and then you'll get into some other stuff in Algebra 2. So hey, Darius, Sir McLogan, what advice do you have before starting calculus? So calculus is a little bit different beast than the other classes. And last year was my first year teaching calculus. And it had been a long time since I had been in college. It was almost like 10 years since I've gone through that. And one of the things that I would say as far as calculus is, not only is the major mistake still algebra, where people are still making their mistakes, but I would say also the vast number of types of equations that you're going to get. So right now I'm working on, you can understand calculus topics. We could make a very easy course to understand the general ideas of calculus. And that's not really usually the issue where students have trouble with calculus. The problems where usually students have trouble with calculus is the different types of functions and equations that they really like, that comes up to them while they're taking the course. We might be looking at talking about an exponential, and then you're seeing this exponential with cosine and a reciprocal, and it's like, we've never seen a problem like that. But that's what it's kind of all about is, taking the information that and being able to apply them to different types of functions that you've never seen before. So to give you some kind of advice for calculus, I would definitely make sure that, again, practicing extra problems, but also making sure that you're kind of getting out of your element. Don't just say, oh, I understand this concept, like I'm good. No, once you understand the concept, look in the book. A lot of the book has a lot of great examples that are there to, can get confusing. Try to understand those. I remember when I was taking calculus, I would literally go to the office lab and I'd find basically videos that would confuse me or problems that would confuse me, and I would basically just watch those or learn how to solve those problems so I could make sure I understood what was exactly going on. And sometimes I could understand the concept, but they just needed to write the problem a little different or use different equations, and I'd feel like I was completely lost. So challenge yourself to really make sure that when you feel like you understand the content that you actually understand it in a different realm. All right, Rose says, any tips on making the most of my time before the degree begins? I have most of my first year calculus done, but I'm just like a little cautious and started early. No, I mean, if you're almost first year done, I mean, just keep on working hard, Rose. That's awesome. I think that calculus is one thing, it does build on itself. So congratulations, you've got so far. But one thing you can't do is don't get happy with that. Make sure you go back and always are spiral reviewing. And obviously, as a teacher, that's something that I want to do and help with my students. But if you are not being forced to go back and remember those earlier topics, calculus builds off itself, and it's going to force you to make sure that you understand those earlier topics. So don't forget that stuff. Go back to it, review that stuff constantly, especially as you start getting to the final exam. The last thing you want to do is try to cram all that information. What I would recommend, Rose, would be to, constantly every week, just spend some time going back and reviewing these tests, the quizzes, the homework. Really kind of make sure you understand the kind of content. All right, guys, I think I caught up on everything. It's, oh, Rose, you're 30 hours a week outside is a 3-year degree. Cool. Oh, Rose, are you the one give me, oh, you gave me the other equation. Probably hates me. Oh, no, I don't know. Who gave me that equation? Oh, that was Alice. Alice, I couldn't help out. What was the hardest topic in calculus, 1, 2, or 3? I struggled with Calc 2 more than Calc 1, and then I didn't have to actually take Calc 3 for my major, but I heard that Calc 3 was easier once you kind of have everything. So that's just kind of hearsay from there on out. All right, guys, well, I don't know, about 5 minutes left. If there's any other questions I can help anybody out with. Again, it's Friday over here. I am in Jacksonville. I'm still in my classroom, as you guys can obviously see. And just having a little fun, so I don't mind doing any math problems if you have, as long as you're not trying to stump me. Or I can just answer some general questions, anything else. But you know, I'm kind of here for you guys, so you just kind of let me know what I can do. I really do appreciate you guys kind of coming on. I really had no idea what to expect from this, but if you want to kind of block this time or kind of look for me going live at this point in time for kind of weeks on end, that's something I want to do just to get to know you guys a little bit more and kind of hear some of the you know, struggles that students are, because obviously my students, just like a kid and his parents, you know, my kids don't always want to be telling me everything that they're not only struggling in my class or, you know, what they're having trouble with my instruction. So a lot of them just like sit there and, you know, I have to pry that information out. So I know that's going to be the case. That's nothing I'm going to be able to get around. But, you know, this is a way that rather than just for watching my videos, you guys can obviously ask some questions and, you know, see what I can do to help you out. So keep the questions coming, guys. And anything else or just any kind of questions, I'll just see, make sure I didn't miss anything. Okay. Calculus. This, I have no teacher, I'm a self-learner. High-tech zone. You're right, Serena. I couldn't make those separate videos into, I can't make the request in the separate video. So that is something I'm just going to kind of play around with, you know, as far as like this live stream. Actually, you know what, if to actually spark your conversation, you know, I'm going to give you guys a question. So this, obviously, you guys are tuned in, right? And you're sitting there kind of, hey, Nico, just arrived. We'll tune in next time. Hey, thanks so much, man. We'll be up. But you know, if you guys have anything else, like what would you like to see? Obviously, when I'm away from my board, you know, I'm going to be teaching. I'm not going to be able to interact. Obviously, I can get a tablet. You know, I haven't bought one yet. But one of the things I was thinking about was getting a little tablet. Therefore, it'd just be a little bit easier for me to kind of show, you know, the work that I'm doing, and therefore still talk and then also kind of look at the board. Romeo, I am more than happy to do some trigonometry. I love most of trigonometry. So when you start getting some questions, you know, look for me. I'm going to kind of end this chat here in just about a couple minutes. But if any of you guys have any kind of topics, or I mean, if you guys want to, you know, let me know some different kind of ideas that I can start doing for some different streams. I mean, I'm more than happy just to sit here and talk and do some math problems as they come around, answer kind of general questions. But if you guys would think we should probably do more, maybe more some like streamed, like theme streamed, where I'm going to talk about certain concepts at certain times. You know, just let me know in the comments below. Kind of let me know where you kind of think this would be the most beneficial for you as you're looking at this. And yeah, I think the tablet, Ryan, is a pretty good idea. So, and I'm going to ask you. Well, thanks so much, Ryan. I really do appreciate you know, watching my videos, and I'm really glad that I was able to, you know, help you out and get through. I can't even imagine if, you know, what watching videos would have done for me when I was in high school. I was that kid that had to just stare at the book, and the longer I stared at it, the longer I just hoped that somehow it would make sense. And sometimes it did make sense, and I was finally like, the aha moment, I finally understand. And then other times it was just like killing me. I'm like, I just could not understand. So a lot of years of frustration, which I know even watching math videos is not like eliminating of frustration. I mean, you're still watching videos, you're like, no, that's not my question, or they skip over exactly the point that you need to be explained. So I understand there's still no perfect explanation that's always going to be for a video, but I'm really happy that a lot of my videos that I try to keep short, that if one problem doesn't answer it, you know, you can watch another one and help you guys out. So I'm happy the way practically a tablet would work best for me. I think so. So I think maybe what I'll do is I'll just go and get a tablet. Therefore, it's a little bit easier, and then you guys, we can also, chat, and I can make sure that we kind of understand everything. So, all right, guys, well, I'm going to go ahead and sign off, and if you guys, I'll plan on, next Friday, I'll go ahead and schedule my next stream, but I'll just kind of look at doing some open office hours on next Friday, and if you guys just want to spread the message and plan to tune in, I'll look forward to seeing you guys back then. All right, guys, enjoy your week.